The views, comments, and opinions of the following program do not necessarily reflect those of Morris Media Studios, MorrisMediaLive.com, or its affiliates. Listener discretion is advised.
There's only one blood, cause it ain't no sense in us trampling on the stones. It's us, down to the bone. Blood is thick, waters were known well, cousins were kept apart, mothers were often memories. Fathers were not favorites on the farm, for he could do some harm, he could wreck the master's scheme, for he, brothers, could dream. Your mama ain't no saint, your daddy died in a shallow stream, but your uncle, Dr. King, did have a dream, my brother. And what is your real excuse? Why can't you study your lessons and stay in school? Why can't you study your lessons?
Homeboy by Sunji Ali. Welcome to the Qumran Report. May the peace and blessings of the life-giving creative spirit be upon you and upon your family. My name is Melvin Ishmael Johnson, coming at you live from Morris Media Studios. Our call-in number is 1-323-293-3375. So call in and ask our special guest some questions. Now, this week on the Qumran Report, our topic is financial planning and connecting with your resources. Before we get into our topic, financial planning and connecting with your resources, I would like to make an announcement about a special event this weekend at the New American Theater. This weekend, the Nasana Play Reading Series presents 10-minute play reading quartet, 4 short 10-minute plays by Felix Rasselis, Andrea Ross, Earlene Anthony, Timothy Mackey, some young playwrights here in Los Angeles, and an ensemble team of readers, highly trained and professional actors from Los Angeles and the surrounding areas. That's this Saturday, December the 15th, 2018 at 3 o'clock p.m., the New American Theater, 13112 North Wilton Place, Hollywood, California, 90028. Information 213-908-5032. Now, my special in-studio guest, Dr. Dominique Reese. Dominique, welcome to the Qumran Report.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Can you tell our listening audience about your background and how did you get off into financial planning?
Absolutely. So, greetings, everyone. I'm Dr. Dominique Reese, and I am a financial coach, planner, and strategist. I started my career back in 2003 as an intern at Merrill Lynch here in Century City. And some of my mentors at the time were financial advisors with the company. And given the program that I was in high school, I was able to get an internship at Merrill. So I started working at Merrill Lynch, learning about private wealth management and how people I did not know, weren't famous, weren't entertainers, but were millionaires. And so that really sparked an interest on, oh, this is real and it's happening. And then they have people who help them manage their money. And that was my introduction into wealth management. And I started my career in 2003. Fast forward to where we are now, I've been working in the industry for about 15 years in various financial roles over the years, but got laid off from Merrill Lynch, and that's when I started my business in New York City back in 2009. It was at that point that I realized as I was building my business, I would host seminars and workshops teaching my clients about different strategies for investing. But those who showed up for those seminars were not my millionaire clients. They were actually regular, hardworking, everyday people who still had this dream of creating wealth and getting their finances in order. And at that time, working at Merrill, I had to work with clients who had $250,000 in investable assets, meaning money that they could put away into the markets or into any investments. And I didn't have anyone from my network with that kind of money. So it became apparent to me that the people who were showing up to my seminars and my workshops wanted to learn this information, didn't have the assets, but had plenty of debt, no savings, and some modest income. And so from there it became really interesting because I thought, well, who's working with them? You know, we've got people who are working with high net worth clients, and if you were below poverty line per se, you could go work with a nonprofit on counseling or credit counseling, debt counseling, but a holistic approach to financial planning for everyday hardworking people was missing. There was no market serving that market. And so coming out of being laid off from Merrill Lynch when all things were going down the drain in 2008, 2009, I decided to start my own practice. And that was Community LLC back in New York City with the focus on educating clients about money. And from educating them, they would always ask, well, do you work one-on-one? And that's how my one-on-one work began. I was charging $300 for a budget, a savings strategy, and a debt reduction strategy. And that's really where the work began. Fast forward to now, moved back to California in 2012, started working at a financial startup in the Bay, got laid off again, which is pretty common in our industry. So it didn't faze me. You just kind of got to be prepared for that. But coming out of that, we were able to build a model that provided middle-class Americans with a financial advisor and the education, which was somewhat unheard of at that time. Again, typically you have to have $250,000 to work with an advisor. But the model that we were able to create was able to bring financial planning to everyday households and really start a basic foundation for clients. So now I'm a financial coach. I serve LA County. I typically work with veterans. That is my specialty. But in the past few months, I was approved to work with whomever I like. So
let me ask you this.
Yeah.
You mentioned something about a model that, what was the essence of the model that you created?
Awesome question. And it was working, which was a little unfortunate when we got defunded. But it was literally bringing in financial advisors who had a CFP or were on path to get their certified financial planning designation. And were looking to build their practice, but kind of fresh in the game, per se. And then you had clients who, again, had no assets, maybe tons of debt, had income, so there was something to work with, little to no savings, maybe were investing through their 401k, so they were investors, but didn't realize it. And how we could bring those two markets together at a price point that made sense for the advisors to get paid, that was affordable for the client, and then made sense for the business. And what we decided to do was to create a monthly fee because middle-class Americans are used to paying bills and a lot of their debts on a monthly basis that fit their model and their spending pattern and their spending behavior. So in devising a price point, we were able to come up with a monthly fee that was less than $100 a month for access to an advisor, a financial plan, and ongoing financial education and support. Slow but steady, we started to get more and more clients. We started to market what we were doing, and the model proved to work.
Is the model similar for individuals and just say a small business? Just say a business like this, like a studio, that's owned by the poetess or something like that. Financial planning for a business is the same as for an individual, the same steps?
I would say...
You mentioned something about the budget and all that kind of stuff earlier.
Right. I'd say typically the steps are very similar. And the process by which we as practitioners work with our clients is for the most part the same. We want to identify what the goal is, understand what the objectives are, and then implement some strategies and solutions to achieve those goals. Once we do that, it's monitoring the progress of what we've implemented. And if we need to reevaluate or shift, that's when we'll do that and just kind of keep that cycle going of establishing new goals, implementing strategies, monitoring, establishing new goals. So you just consistently do that over the life cycle of working with someone, whether individual or business.
Now, how about let's talk about a business plan for a minute. Do you develop a business plan for individuals and for a business? Is they similar or?
Well, typically when we work with individuals, we'll call that a financial plan. Mm-hmm. And then when we work with them in their business, or if they're not a business owner and we just work with business owners in general, then we'll develop a financial plan for the business owner. Mm-hmm. And if the scope of the work entails also working on their business finances, then we'll start to do some business planning. So there's two separate types of plans, one for the individual, one for the business. Mm-hmm. However, as business owners, most times the business owner's finances are either commingling with the business mm-hmm. and or funding their business. So there is a need to work on the individual's personal finance before we get to that business.
Mm-hmm. Now, small business, is it better to go to incorporate or go as a single, what they got, single partnership corporations? Okay. Well, for a small business, which one would be better?
Great question. Mm-hmm. So in planning and the style of my business and approach to financial planning is always goals based. Mm-hmm. So mm-hmm. questions like that I get all the time, and I always throw it back. Well, what's the goal? Because as a business owner, yes, you're creating this business to create a profit. We're not here to work for free. Mm-hmm. However, based on your products or services that you're going to offer and the scope of the vision, how big do you see yourself getting, the types of clients you want to work with, all of those kinds of decisions will factor into the formation of your business. Mm-hmm. Meaning, are you going to incorporate as a sole proprietor, as a LLC, as a limited partnership, as an S Corp, a C Corp? Those are the different formations available to all of us. And you might start as one formation, and as you grow, you might change into a different one. But mm-hmm. it's all around what's the goal? Mm-hmm. What are we doing here? What are we building? And if you back out of that question, that'll help us decide which formation is best given the time that you're starting.
Mm-hmm. And, I find the African American, the black community is so similar to what's happening in the veterans community, in terms of economics and all of that kind of stuff like that. Well, can we talk a little while about going into business in a home-based business?
Sure.
What are the advantages of a home-based business as opposed to a regular business?
Well, again, knowing what your goals are and what you're trying to accomplish for home-based businesses, just generally, you're going to take on less costs. If you're not a brick and mortar, you're not paying rent, mm-hmm. you don't have certain insurances that you might need, maybe even certain equipment, but just not having that kind of overhead of a brick and mortar physical location is mm-hmm. a huge advantage to a home-based business. But again, every business can't operate out of the home. Mm-hmm. So given what you're building, given what your goals are, if you do decide to start a home-based business, and just really any business in general, the advantages economically really revolve around how we get paid. At the end of the day, our tax code is set up to really lend advantages to businesses. Mm-hmm. As employees, we work, we make money. When we get taxed, it's money comes in, taxes are taken out, and then we get what's left over. Mm-hmm. When you run a business, it's you make that money, you spend that money, which includes your salary, and then as part of your operational expenses, and then it's taxed on whatever is left over. Mm-hmm. So there's just a difference in how the money comes in and how it's treated tax-wise that really creates the advantages of being an employee versus owning your own. So even if you are working and you have a job, it's my belief that we all have some gift, experience, education, or expertise that we can lend to start our own business. I'm not going to say side hustle because who wants to hustle? Like mm-hmm. that language is even problematic. We start our businesses so that we can create additional streams of income, but how that income is taxed is where we start to see the advantages to our bottom line, mm-hmm. whether home-based, whether brick and mortar. But home-based businesses are a great way to start based upon what your product or service is.
Mm-hmm. Now, how much of an influence of have the internet change a person's approach to business?
You know, it's a gift like no other right now. This is the prime time of any time to start a business with the advantages of the internet, because now you've got a market that's global. So it's not just about your local market. It's about a global market. And that's the scale with which we are in our society. It's no longer just reaching the people who might walk past you or within your local community. You can now reach the world with your product and or service. That is a huge advantage. But more importantly, the costs of starting a business online are just minimal. I mean, a laptop, internet, and a phone. You know, you can start a business with those three things. Now, obviously, based on your product or service, it might get a bit more involved. However, that's pretty basic. You can start a home-based business or even not a home-based business with those three particular things: the internet, a laptop, and a cell phone. Different industries are thriving based on internet-based businesses. You may never find a brick and mortar for certain businesses. They only exist online. Given that, we can use those models to really translate into anything that, again, we know, we do well, or we have an expertise in, and begin to offer that to those people who are waiting for us to show up and offer it to them.
Let me ask you this. Let's talk about veterans for a while, because, you know, one of the things I noticed in your work is, and that's what I really like, is the fact that you used to give out so many contacts about possible jobs and et cetera like that.
Right.
Which have you been able to chart the results of that?
Yes and no. It's always dependent on the clients coming back and telling me how it went. You know, right now I have over 250 clients that I serve in LA County. And the great thing is, when I do make those connections, if they work out and the client is able to get the results they're seeking, that's all good. If I never find out, that's fine. Most times I find out when things don't go so well, but that's where I come into play. I'm accountable to my partners or to whomever those service providers are. So if you're offering a service, I let my clients know, and my clients follow up and say, hey, yeah, I need that. I connect you with that particular service provider. And if something isn't expected or if something doesn't go as expected, I expect my clients to come back and tell me. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But when I do follow up with that provider, it's what happened. Because we know, especially in the veteran community, veterans get the runaround. They get referrals, go here, go there, go here, go there. But where's the result? So we got to learn to keep those providers accountable to say, well, listen, if I got a client coming to you and you can't help them, redirect them. Give them a resource that is helpful, or give them the bus token or a pass so that they can get back to where they need to get to and kind of start this journey again. But I am seeing results from clients getting jobs. I've had clients who got the resources they needed, whether it was transportation help, housing support, employment support. Just recently, the Volunteers of America has a program that's fully funded to offer assistance with car repairs. Now, that has been a need for clients of mine for a while, but it's hard to find discretionary funds like that. So once I got wind that this program was new, it's offered, and it's here, I'm like, oh, let's blast that out. I've referred over 20 veterans to Volunteers of America for that service. Now, it's about a 2-week process from what I'm understanding. Some clients are just now getting connected with the contact, but it's starting to happen. So I'm hoping that within the next week or two, I'll have some results on how it's gone. But one of my clients who didn't use my contact but found out about it actually did get his car repaired. It was a lot of money that he saved, that they actually paid for everything that needed to get done. Now, that was a very specific case, but it worked out. So I was really happy to hear that it did. Now, he said he had to stay on him a little bit. There was some back and forth, which I always know is the case. You know, sometimes they'll hit you with that no. You just kind of got to be persistent. But it is working. So I am getting those results. Those leads go out. Clients are getting jobs. They're either getting interviews. They're getting somewhere that they weren't before. So for me, moving the needle is the most important part. But we are getting results.
Let's talk about resumes and interviews for a while.
Yeah.
What's the is it important to have a long resume or a brief resume? Because I know I've talked to a few people that's in positions of hiring, and they always like to have like a one-page brief,
right?
To tell them a little something about. Can you talk about the importance of resumes?
Absolutely.
And what's supposed to be in them?
Right. So just remember, whenever we're selling ourselves, whether it's for a job, if it's through our business, we've got to have some kind of documentation to leave people with. And that's really what the resume is about. Otherwise, how they're going to learn about us. So some people, I don't have a resume. I don't need one. I don't want one. Well, how far do you expect to get without one? So it's one of those things that we just kind of need. Now, when we talk about the effort that goes into building your resume, there will not be just one. You will have several resumes because every resume should be tailored to the opportunity you're going for. Now, in the whole scope of our lives and the experiences that we've accumulated, you can't fit all of that on one piece of paper. So you're going to have to pick and choose strategically what positions, what experience makes sense to market. Because again, if this is a job that's around one specific skill set that you have and you've got lots of experience in that skill set, you want to highlight the experiences that got the most results, where you were either managing something, you changed the numbers, you drove results, you impacted bottom line. So obviously you're going to have to pick and choose. You can't put everything on there. But once you feel like you've got the right experience identified, create that resume tailored to that position. Speak to the position you want to claim. And then when it comes to like all the fancy stuff, they're not impressed with none of that. All the fonts and the colors, leave that out. Then we have to remember too, we're in a digital age. So paper resumes are still the thing, but there are other innovative things as well. Video resumes. That's this new thing where, you can create like maybe a 30-second to 1.5 minute video of your experience, your qualifications, but really your personality and how you bring your whole self to a particular position. And obviously with a video resume, they can see you. This is a totally different thing. With platforms like LinkedIn, you might be able to post your video resume up there. It lives forever. As things change with you, you might want to update that the same way you would update your paper resume. But now you've got employers and potential partners or businesses that you want to work with looking at you not only from what you can do based on your experience and on paper, but they get a feel of your personality. They get a feel for your passion. And I think that's probably the piece that's always missing on paper. They can't get that off of paper. So then when you land that interview, that's where you can give that. You show them who you are. Because really, if you land the interview, it's kind of halfway done. You kind of sealed the deal. They just really want to see who you are. They've got everything on paper. What more can you show or tell us about yourself? So it's important to remember that even though it takes work, you got to sit down and put some time into a resume. It's going to be about 1 hour to 2 hours per sitting to get it right. And then if you've got 5 opportunities you want to apply for, that's 5 different resumes. Each resume should not be the same because there's 5 different companies. So you want to speak to that company, their culture, their language, and again, highlight your experiences that best market you as the candidate that they should be working with.
Now, how about the application process when an individual is filling out and they come across the portion that say, have you ever been convicted of a felony or crime or whatever like that? What should go there? How should they handle that?
Right. Well, listen.
In the application process.
In the application process, everything in divine order. What they don't know, they can find out. So let's just start there, right? And if you have been convicted of anything or you got something in your background, they can find out. Honesty is the best policy. This is the first test for you to show how transparent you are, your values, your integrity. We know there might be some shame around that experience, but this is not the time to hide it. Answer that question truthfully, one, because then you won't be lying. Who's going to hire a liar? No one's going to do that. And then it makes you look bad in the end when they ask, well, why didn't you just well, I didn't know. Okay, well, honesty is the best policy. That's the cliche for a reason. That saying has been around. But most employers have a process by which they can still get around those things. It's not a barrier, at least not anymore. It can be, but for the most part, disclosing it is important. And again, a lot of companies have methods by which they say, okay, well, based on what it is, it's a case-by-case basis. We still work with potential candidates. I know Metro is big on that. A lot of veterans get hired through Metro, but they might have something in their background they're not as proud of that happened a while ago. Don't allow that to prevent the opportunity. Metro has a process by which they handle those who check off that box. It's not an immediate no. You don't get thrown to the end of the pile, but it's more on a case-by-case basis. Most employers do that. So it's just one of those things where, you've got to believe in yourself in this process. While there's so many things that'll tell you why you can't do something, feed you the negative head trash, you'll think of all the things that can go wrong. That's just fear, and fear is false evidence against reality. Don't shoot yourself in the foot before someone else does. That might not even matter because, again, if you've got the experience, you're qualified, your personality shines through, that's more important to an employer than your past. If they can understand what happened in the past and help, answer whatever questions that they might have, that might be all they need. Okay, covered that. Now let's talk about how we can work together, the value that you can add to this company. So it's really about believing in yourself and the confidence that you'll convey even through that application. That is a measure of confidence. If you don't check that box off, and you should be checking that box off, you don't believe in yourself.
And then a lot of times in the application process, which is a goal, is to get an interview. I've heard also that you can put in that box, would like to discuss.
Absolutely.
With the goal of getting an interview and selling yourself in an interview. Because if you put in there second-degree felony or assault or whatever like that, the individual may not get that interview. And in a lot of cases, if they put something like would like to discuss, then it's up to them to sell themselves at the interview.
Right.
How about some of the basic rules about an interview? Just say a person put in the application process. Now they got an interview Monday morning at 10 o'clock. What are the basics about an interview?
Well, listen,
the things that a person...
We're selling ourselves throughout this whole process, from that application to the end of the interview. And so you don't want to be late, right? You don't want to be late. Would you hire someone who shows up late? Maybe not. Or you might ding them a little bit. So being on time, being punctual. And then presenting yourself, knowing the company that you're going to work for. What is their culture? Is it professional dress? Is it business casual? Is it casual? Play the part you want and above. So whatever it is at the position that you're going for, make a good impression, but don't do something that's out of character either. Don't do something that you can't maintain if you get hired and after they're like, oh, you're a totally different person than what you were in the interview. So be true to thyself, to thine own self be true. And again, everything in divine order. You got this interview based on the paper you. So now they want to know who you are in person. This is your time to really interview them. This is always about fit. And I'm a strong believer in the idea that anything that you could land an interview for, you could do for yourself. That's how we begin to build our own businesses. If you're selling your skill set to a company and you land that interview, that's affirmation that you've got something that you can sell on your own. So even to those, our brothers and sisters who are coming out of prisons and reentry population, as they call, we have an ability to transfer skill sets in a way that can monetize our position. So you selling a skill set to a company, you could sell that same skill set to that company as a consultant. or other companies like it. So again, it's about what the goal is. Is this job a stepping stone, or is this job the end all be all? What are we doing it for? And even if it doesn't go the way you plan for it to go, you don't land the job, or, you don't hear back, because a lot of times clients, I didn't hear back. Stay in the loop. What's next? Like, is there another company, their competitor? Go to their competitor. See what positions they have available. If it's getting your foot in the door type of thing, get your foot in the door and then get the gig, and then create a plan for promoting yourself within the company or adding value to the company so that you get that position you eventually wanted to get. So I think ideally, when it comes to this interview process and doing well in interviews, it's about selling yourself, yes, but it's about fit. You might decide in that interview, I don't even like these people. Like, yeah, the job is great, but these are the people I'll be working with. That matters. Yes, you might need the job for money, but then you're selling yourself into a miserable situation where you might start the job and 6 months later you're out of there. Now, all of that work was for nothing. So use this as an opportunity to believe in yourself just as much as they're selling their company to you. You get to interview them too. This is about fit. So that is an opportunity to see how you would thrive with the people that you could potentially work with, and if this is going to be a good fit for both parties, not just you getting hired by them. Because again, if you landed that interview, that means you've got something to offer that this industry needs, that this company would value to contribute to their bottom line, which means you can go and sell that skill set on your own as a consultant to that same company or their competitors.
Well, let's talk about veterans again. I want to talk about the fee. What are some of the major challenges financially for female veterans? Is it different for male veterans?
Well, I'm sure there are some distinct differences and unique situations, especially, given that most females, if you have any children involved and they're single parents, not to say that there aren't even single fathers, but if you're a veteran and you're a parent and you're female, you might have a different set of concerns than a male veteran if you're the head of your household. And in that regard, I would say maybe the financial strains are a little different. Given that the female veteran population is less than that of men, I find there just aren't as many resources to reach female veterans. We know they're out there, but the resources, they're slowly but surely coming. And I find that there's more and more female veterans are making themselves more aware of the resources. I don't really know the psychology around it, but asking for help is not an easy thing for anyone. As I've learned, it's not an easy thing for veterans either. And so that's just another barrier to getting the solutions and strategies that might help alleviate a situation. But I wouldn't necessarily say there's any particular thing of female versus male. And honestly, veteran or non-vet, I find that money problems are just money problems. They run the gamut for everyone. And how we manage them is where the differences might come in, but everyone is subject to them.
So when you first come in contact, just say a veteran, become one of your clients, what is the first step that you try to deal with an individual before you move to the second step?
Absolutely. Well, again, in coaching, which is a very client-driven process, financial coaching is an opportunity for the client to really provide the most ideal situation for them. Compared to counseling, planning, or advising, where that's usually driven by the practitioner, the professional. You come to me as an advisor or a planner or a counselor, and I'm going to tell you what to do. I'm going to give you the strategies, and I might help you with it, I might not. In coaching, we follow the lead of our client. So you come to me and you share with me what is on your mind, what the problems are. I sit back, I listen, and I usually come back with questions. Not, here's what you need to do, go do this, da da da. There's some situations where I do shift into counseling. But when we start with coaching, it's, okay, well, what is the ideal situation? This is what you're dealing with now, no matter how bad it is. It could be, I'm homeless, I just lost my job, my car just broke down, or I got this tax situation, whatever it is, the collectors are calling me. Okay, that's the current situation. What is the ideal situation? And usually my clients aren't asked that question. So they might need some time to sit back and think about it. And that's fine. And I'll just sit back and be quiet. And it might be a little awkward because, again, these aren't questions that most people are used to hearing. What's my ideal situation? I just need to fix the situation. But what's ideal? How do we not get here again? What got us here? So usually I'll sit back. I'll let the client share, well, what's ideal? And out of that usually comes something else around what got them there, or, well, I actually did this and, that didn't work out. So now I know you have the ability to solve your own issues. Coaching, I assume as a practitioner that my client is creative, resourceful, and whole. You're not coming to me broken and I need to fix you. You're coming to me for guidance, information, accountability, maybe resources, things that you don't have at your disposal. But with my help, I can give you those things and then you'll know what to do with them. But that's how I can add value. And then, the classic case, whether it's budgeting, debt, saving, credit, you know where you need to be. You know what's best for you. I don't. I don't live with you. I don't know the household you live in. I don't know your mindset around what you're building or your life. So I can't come in and tell you need a budget just because your bank account is overdrawn. That would be wrong of me. I don't know how that happened. So for me to just suggest that you need to improve your budgeting so you don't overdraw your bank account is not what we do as coaches. We try to understand, well, what would you like to see happen? Is this a behavior you want to continue? No, it's not a behavior I don't want to continue. I don't want my account to continue to be overdrawn. Okay, well, what do you think you can do to prevent that from happening? We allow the client to drive the solution. Oh, well, I could probably monitor my spending. Okay, that's a very different response than me saying you should probably monitor your spending. Client already knows that. But for them to say that, now they're accountable to their own language, to their own words, and they'll be more likely to buy into whatever strategies and solutions I can help them with because it was their thought, not mine. And that's what they said they needed. Again, I don't live with them, so they know what's best for them. And in coaching, that's how we start the process. It's strictly a conversation. Out of that conversation will come solutions, will come strategies, and then my expertise and the resources that I can provide. And when we really do need to sit and build a budget or roll my sleeves up and we need to call creditors, I'll do that with clients. Okay, I need to call this creditor. I don't know what to say. Okay, I'll do it. And then you can listen to me on the phone with them, notice the language that I use so that you can then do it on your own. I had a veteran client who did that, and he said it was from our first call when I made the call to the IRS. He noticed my language, but when he had to do it, it was because he couldn't get an appointment with me. So it was like, listen, you've got a time-sensitive situation. You can't get an appointment with me. You've got to do this. And he did it. He made the call. He didn't overcommit. He knew exactly what he wanted to do. And that's the thing. You don't ever have to commit to any solution. Just call, get the information, learn what your options are, and then say, okay, I'm going to give you a call back once I could take a look at everything. That way you don't feel any pressure. You don't feel like you have to do something or they're going to come and get you. That's just not how it works, no matter what they say on the other line. You know, okay, if I can't afford to set up this payment plan, then I shouldn't do that because then it's going to overdraw my account or my money ain't going to be there till this day. Don't overcommit. Get the information, learn what your options are. And in coaching, we help our clients take on those behaviors so they can do it by themselves. If I go away, like how our program is going to go away, what are you going to do to sustain this solution? If I'm not here, how are you going to do it? So I don't want you to become dependent on me because that's just not the way this works. If I go away, you've got to have the tools, the resources to know, okay, this is how I do this. I research first. I make calls. I ask questions on those calls. I don't commit to anything, no matter how much pressure they might put on me, but I get what I need and then I can sleep on it. Okay, what's best? I know my check comes this day. I know this going on. Sleep on it, think about it, and then call them back and say, okay, here's what I can comfortably commit to. Then you start the discussion from there.
Let me ask you this question. The job you're doing now, the financial planning, working with veterans and others, if it was to continue, what would be the next phase? Because the first phase was how long?
For this program?
Yes.
It was a 5-year pilot.
So you're at the end of the 5 years?
At the end and they cut it a little short.
Yeah. So what would be the next phase if it was to continue that would be different from the first phase and would be also a continuation of the first phase?
Great question.
Have you looked at that?
I have, because again, this program has been kind of groundbreaking. There was nothing like this before. And again, financial coaching is very new to the financial services industry. So I'd say maybe 15 years old. So as a career, as an occupation, as a thing to offer people, most people don't know what financial coaching is. It's still an education around that we're providing for the marketplace, and how it's different than financial counseling or financial planning or financial advising. So on that note, I see a continuation of the work that we're doing exactly as we're doing it, because it's still so new. Most people who have learned about me and the work that I do are like, 3 years, 4 years, I haven't heard about this program. There hasn't been much marketing around it. And that's for a specific reason as well. It's a government program. There's a way in which they do things. And so as it comes down the pipeline and now it's here, we, the front line, the coaches, we're responsible for marketing, for finding our clients, for creating our partnerships so that we can get the word out. There's some things I would change around that, but the bulk of the work that we do is really in the one-on-one space, which is very different. Again, usually you've got to pay for one-on-one time with a professional. So to continue this work, I think it should continue to be offered as a one-on-one, private, confidential sessions. Nonprofits should take on this work. They should find funding for coaching, and that's what we're starting to see. Again, our program really introduced this idea of coaching to a lot of the social service agencies. So, for example, LA County is somewhat getting all over this through their system of the America's Job Center of California. So that's where I'm currently located. My office is in Compton at an AJCC. But they see the work I'm doing, they see the partnerships that I've created, and they see the results. So they're like, well, we don't want it to go away. Let's find some funding for it so we can continue this coaching. And it should continue just as it is. Let people learn about it. Let them come in, have a one-on-one session, because it's like you won't know what it is until you just do it. You sit with the coach, you understand the process, and then you start to see, okay, I can come to you for this. I could come to you for that. Or what about this? Because some people just don't know what we're going to do. Like, okay, I've got this going on, but can you help me with it? I'm not sure until we sit down and talk about it. And when it's outside of my area of expertise, and maybe we do need to partner with a different agency. I'm not a housing specialist. A lot of my clients might be homeless. So how do I help them? Well, I connect them with one of my partners who provides housing. I don't just refer them and leave them. We work together. So that's where me as a financial coach, I can be accountable to that partner, and I could be accountable to my client to say, okay, I've connected you with them. It's on you to connect with them. But once you connect with them, keep me posted on the relationship. And so that part is also important because, again, certain populations, when you get in social services, you get the referral, and no result. So we don't want to create another system of that. That's not what coaching is about. Coaching is about results based on the client's timing, the client's pace, but meeting their need. So I would see another iteration of this program actually just like the one that we've built. It worked great. We're learning as we go along, but we've gotten results that no one would have expected because it's like, what is this thing? Who's going to really want that? And How do you get paid? Well, as practitioners, we're starting our own businesses. We're doing this coaching thing. We're figuring out our own pricing strategies. But our clients don't pay us. And if you can't afford to pay us because of your situation, you're homeless or you're unemployed or you have very limited fixed income, maybe you shouldn't pay for it. So who should? The nonprofits. They've got funding for that.
The Veterans Collaborative, that's a partner too? That's one of the resources to promote what I do. I've gone to the Veterans Collaborative. The one that's connected with USC.
Yes.
A lot of backing from you. And it seemed like they would pick up this project. Let me ask you, I had a veteran come to me, and I think I referred him to you or somebody over there at Bob Hope. And this veteran had a $40,000 check.
Okay.
And because of in his past, he had a real messed up financial background, couldn't get a checking account. And I know when they send you these large checks, they also tell you could some kind of direct deposit MasterCard. I think that's the only other option.
Okay.
And I think I sent him to somebody down there, and they dealt with him where he was able to handle, because he had this check for 2 weeks, walking around with this check, trying to figure out. He couldn't get it. It was too big to go to the cash checking place.
Right.
So he was really in a jam.
Yeah.
How and so many veterans like that who either go through the system or post-traumatic stress, and they now kind of coming back around. And they went through the process, may take 2 years or 3 years to get their benefits.
Right.
And they get a lump sum. Yeah. How could they deal, what kind of suggestions would you have for that?
Great
How
question.
can they deal with that?
Right. So for those clients who come into any lump sum or windfall of money, it's truly going to be planning at that point. And if you don't have a bank account already, based on whatever's in your past, what you might want to do first is request two things. Your checks report, which is the system that the banks use to share information about our banking behavior. So a lot of times you might say, well, I can't get a bank account because I'm in the check system. Well, Checks, CHEX, is the name of the system. It's just the technology. But it's become the name of the reason why we can't get our accounts. Bank account. I'm in the check system. Well, you can pull your checks report. So many people don't even know that. The same way the banks pull your checks report to see if they want to open the account for you, you can pull your checks report and see what they see. And so that to me is the greatest value of all, because if you know what's there before you go to open the account, then you can do whatever work you need to do to get those things removed or to have them improved, so that when you go to the bank to get the account, you're going to get it open, because now you know what they're looking at. So now you can build whatever strategies you need to build to get things removed, to have things disputed, especially if you've been a victim of identity theft or any fraudulent activities in the past. Somebody's used your name, used your social, you just kind of left it alone. It still might be there, and you won't know about it until you can't get that account. Now, if you know you can't get an account, you definitely should pull the checks report. Some banks offer what's called second chance accounts, and it's for consumers who have a challenged history, whether it's their banking history or credit history. And so they know they're dealing with a population that's more at risk in terms of defaulting or paying something back, but they still have made these accounts available to them because everybody needs a second chance to get started. So you can even identify some banks that offer specific second chance accounts.
And how do you track them down? Research online?
Yeah, good old Google.
And what's the process for the check thing?
For pulling your checks report. So you can visit checksystems.com. Or you can even just Google CHEX systems, check systems. Their website is going to come up, and there's going to be a link where you click that says, request my checks report. Click on that. You can do it online, or you could do it via mail. So either way, which is best, some people don't trust online things and having to disclose information. So if you want to do it via mail, just print off the form, fill it in, send it off. I think it's about maybe 15 business days that they'll get your report to you. Once you get that report, if you have no idea what's on there or what that stuff means, reach out to someone like myself, a financial coach who can help walk you through what's on that report. The same way you would do with your credit report. Go to annualcreditreport.com. You can request your reports either online, via phone, or via the mail. It takes about 1 to 3 weeks for your reports to come in. It's a lot of information. If you don't know how to read that information, reach out to someone like myself. We'll sit with you and we'll review that together, make sense of it.
Now, one female veteran, she had a Wells Fargo account.
Okay.
And she is part of that lawsuit when they were setting up all of those phony accounts, but it messed up her account. What can she do? She's still waiting on the settlement, but it's still, she can't open any other accounts because of what Wells Fargo. Yeah.
I would say, when it comes to those personal situations, it's just you got to sit down with the client, understand the full scope, and then see what the goal is. Because even though, she can't get an account, we might not need that kind of account right now. And if there are certain monies that she has or that will come into, we might be able to look into a different type of an account, maybe a brokerage account or just a different type of account with a different institution. Now, given there's legal around that as well, understanding the full scope of everyone's situation is really what's required. You can't really give the one-on-one advice because it's too general. It might not apply, and then I don't want people taking action on things that aren't applicable for them. But I would say just reach out to a trusted professional, whether it's an attorney, whether it's a financial coach. Usually a financial advisor is not going to be the right professional to work with in trying to understand a situation. A counselor or a coach will probably be the best first steps.
I want to play a little quick. I had an individual in here dealing with financial information, Reverend E.J. Pierce, the late Reverend E.J. Pierce, because he just passed a few months ago. And I want to play that clip real quick. Okay, welcome to the Qumran Report. This is Melvin Ishmael Johnson. I'm over here at the financial workshop. My Econ. I'm getting ready to have a little short interview with Reverend E.J. Pierce. Just got a couple little questions to ask him. Very first one is, what is the key element in attaining financial success?
Thank you. That's a very good question. One of the key elements in financial success is strategy. See, most people say, I have to go back to school because they feel inadequate. So the strategy to go back to school has not been fulfilling because many of us go back to school again and again and again. The strategy that my econ talks about is using a strategy versus a sale. We've all been taught, go to school, get a good education so you can get a good job. Well, the strategy in that technique, that modality that we all been taught about is good, but who is it good for? It's good for the government because jobs are taxed at the highest level.
Okay. Well, look, tell me this. For those who, quickly, can you tell me how you got started in the financial workshop, financial business, doing workshops like this?
I got involved when I became a displaced worker in the workforce as an employee. And it was such a traumatic event because my lifestyle changed immediately because I didn't have the income that I used to have. So I wind up going into psychotherapy. And my therapist asked me a question. What's wrong with your mind? And when the thought came to me that my parents always told me, respect your elders. So I decided that since I'm a displaced worker, there's nothing wrong with my mind. I created a nonprofit organization called Senior Solution Outreach Program. And from there, I realized that the seniors used a strategy back in the day. They bought land. They bought property. You didn't know who was wealthy in the community because it wasn't about bling bling. Mm-hmm. It was about a man and a woman providing for their family and being able to pass on those assets to the next generation.
Mm-hmm. Okay. But tell me, for those who would want some personal coaching or to set up one of your workshops, what's the contact information?
For those who are interested in financial literacy, financial education, I don't charge personally. But what I do is that I find out what people want, and I find out who has it, and I bring them together. That's the purpose of Senior Solution Outreach Program. And Senior Solution Outreach Program is a 501c3, which is nonprofit. So we do accept in-kind donations. Mm-hmm. Our phone number is 310-770-7104. Mm-hmm. Give me a call, and I will be able to point you into the right direction. Because, as it has been said before, you can learn a lot from a dummy.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you, Jay. Looking forward to this workshop. Thank you very much. This is Melvin Ishmael Johnson with the Qumran Report. Okay, I want, before we close out, a couple things. We forgot to talk about retirement. How do that fit into the financial picture? And then some of your closing comments.
Okay, so retirement, we're living longer and we're working longer too. Retirement is no longer just sitting around. Again, I'm going to go back to the goal. If you don't want to work anymore, what will you do with your time? And so in defining, and you'll see marketing around this, redefining retirement, it's just a different thing for everyone. You've got to decide how you're going to spend those years not working formally. And some people go into a second career, meaning, okay, I don't want to do what I did before, but I want to do this, run my own business or go start a business in some place or travel or whatever that means for you. Defining your lifestyle. That's really what it's going to be about. And on the money side, you got to ensure that the work that you're doing now will create enough income for you to invest, and then that investment will allow for you to create income for the rest of your life. That's really what retirement is right now. The work you're doing now has to sustain you for the next 20 years, the next 30 years, depending upon your age. I'm 33. I plan to live a long life. So when I want to retire at 45, I'm going to retire at 45. Everything I do now, I've got like 14 years to sustain me for the next 40 years. So that's a really interesting way to think about it. Everything you're doing now, you only have so much time, much less time than how much time you've got to make that work for you. So it's a very serious topic. It's something that we should be giving more attention to. And again, strategy, it's a part of the whole plan. It's not the plan. It's a part of the plan. Mm-hmm. So we should be giving some attention to that.
Okay, Dominique Reese, thank you. Any closing comments? We still got about 2 minutes before we close off. Any closing comments you would?
I would love for everyone to just remember everything in divine order. You are uniquely and divinely created. And it is time, and the time is now. And there's no better time to create that which you feel you do best, to show up for the people who are waiting to receive your gift. Because without your gift, they can't go into their own gifts. You know, I believe we are all building something bigger than ourselves. And so in creating our own economies and creating our own streams of income that we control, you know, with a business, you can't lay yourself off for the most part. Mm-hmm. You can decide to do some things or you can decide not to do some things, but it's always something that you can go back to and create streams of income through. Show up for the people who are waiting for you to show up for them. Whether that's through your education and what you know, what you went to school for, whether that's your expertise, what companies are paying you for, or your experience, the things that you've gone through in life that you might not want to talk about, you might not want to remember, but it's somebody else who's going through that and they're waiting for you to show up to help them get through it. There's a business in that. And so those are the 3 E's that we use to get paid: education, expertise, and experience. We're selling that all the time. Remember that yours are valuable and there are people who want it.
Thank you. Thank you. Dominique Reese. Yeah, special things. Now, please listen to past shows of the Qumran Report by Googling in Qumran Report. Thank you for tuning in to the Qumran Report. From your host, Melvin Ishmael Johnson, may the peace and blessings of the life-giving creative spirit be upon you and upon your family. I leave you with Homeboy by Sunji Ali.
Homeboy. Brothers, there's only one blood, 'cause it ain't no sense in us traveling on.